Hey, my name is Dr. Sean Price, Clinical Coordinator here at ChiroSpa, and this is our chiropractic video number 2 on chiropractic health. And what I want to do today is I want to go over the functional diagram of how the nervous system works so that you get a good understanding of what we do in chiropractic. So your brain, we talked about this a little bit in video number 1. Your brain controls and coordinates the function of every cell in the body. So the brain sends its signal down through the spinal cord to the body for the body to carry out functions. And what happens is the brain will send that signal out, the body carries out its functions, and everything works great, and the body is in a state of ease or health. Now, when the body goes into malfunction, whether it's through some kind of a physical stress, a chemical stress, an emotional stress, or something along those lines, the body will have what's called a subluxation, and that is a disconnect between the brain and the body. A subluxation is a situation where one or more of the joints of the spine have become misaligned and are putting pressure on a nerve. That's a basic explanation for it. So the spine has become misaligned and it's putting pressure on those nerves. And when you put a pressure on the nerve, just like if you're taking a water hose and you've got the water running through the water hose and it's running smoothly, imagine that water running through the water hose to be the signal coming from the brain and going to the body. Well, if a joint misaligns and puts pressure on those nerves, it's like putting pressure on that water hose. So it's going to change the amount of water that's coming through. So it changes the amount of nerve flow coming from the brain to the spinal cord. So what will end up happening is when you get this subluxation, the body doesn't get the signals that it should be getting. So the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to start having malfunction. So in the neck, for example, let's say you have a subluxation in your neck. Instead of being able to turn your head fully to the side, you're going to start turning it like this. But you may not notice that you've lost that function because your body will compensate. Same thing in the back, same thing if it's a muscular imbalance or something along those lines. The body will try to carry out its function, so the body will begin to compensate. So you won't notice this loss of function. If the body continues to progress through this, then you'll get into a state of dis-ease. You might have some symptoms here, you might not, but the body still is not functioning properly. So basically what we've got so far is we had this subluxation and we begin a process of deterioration. And the key to this process is time. So sometimes this time frame can be 10, 15, 20 years. We see patients that come in that have never had back pain before or neck pain before, and then all of a sudden they bent down to pick up a pen and they threw their back out and they don't understand why. Well, that's because this deterioration has been happening over a period of many, many years. And then sometimes this can happen in a matter of seconds if you're in a car accident or something along those lines. But you'll get through this, you'll lose these functions, your body will get into a state of dis-ease, and then eventually it'll finally cross what we call the pain threshold. There's a very limited number of nerves in the body that are there to sense pain. Most of the nerves are there to carry out other functions. So when you finally irritated enough of the nerves in the body to start having symptoms, that means that usually you have gone through all of this. So then you come in for care and you get an adjustment, and you maybe get a couple of adjustments or something along those lines, and you get to where you start feeling better, and that means you've crossed that pain threshold. So you've relieved those symptoms. But that doesn't mean that you've actually relieved the problem, because you've still got all this malfunction and everything that's going on here. So this is important key number 1. The brain sends a signal to the body for the body to carry out its functions. When there's a subluxation or an interference in that nerve flow, the body can't carry out its functions. The first thing you get is malfunction. The next thing you get is a state of dis-ease. And then the final thing will happen is you'll start having symptoms. And then resolving the symptoms does get rid of that part that's uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean that you've resolved everything in the spine or everything that's going on in the system. So in our next video, we'll get into a little more detail about what it takes to actually get in and fix this and restore function to the body. If you have any questions, please feel free to post below.